CM Punk admitted this about his AEW run in this video. I'm going to tell you exactly what he had to say, why it's significant, why I was surprised by it, and why I think you will be as well. Because CM Punk's AEW run, well, it had highs, it had lows, and obviously now he's in WWE, so things didn't work out. You know the story, I know the story, right? We can rehash it if you'd like, but here's the cliff notes. He returned to pro wrestling after 7 years. 2021 Rampage. It was a big deal. And you could tell immediately things were not great because he went on this tirade for months about how he wants to work with younger talent. And he looks at all the younger talent that they have in the AEW locker room, and he can't wait to share his knowledge with them. And yada, yada, yada. And no one wanted that CM Punk. So it took the MJF feud to get things rolling. Then the MJF feud happened. But then the Hangman Page feud happened. And oh boy, was that dramatic. And that really led to the downfall of CM Punk's time in AEW, right? Because obviously that led to the all-out brawl. He ripped Colt Cabana, Hangman Page, the Elite at the press conference that led to the all-out brawl. He also got injured in that event where he retained the world title. And then he went on a hiatus. He was suspended. He wanted out. He made it very clear he wanted out. He returned. It was another lackluster return. And then he got fired after the Jack Perry incident. You know that. I know that. What people don't realize is CM Punk's AEW run was something in which was never supposed to happen. He's talked about how he's always wanted to be in WWE. He didn't want to be in AEW, essentially, because he felt like his quote-unquote home was in WWE. Now, keep in mind that it wasn't going to be his home as long as Vince McMahon was not in charge, and obviously that was not... He was still in charge in August of 2021 when Punk went to AEW. He then tried to return to WWE during his hiatus once Triple H took charge of main roster creative. And even went to a Monday Night Raw, right, before being kicked out because Vince McMahon got work. So what did Punk admit about his AEW run? Because he's publicly spoken about it on the MMA Hour, probably the most in-depth discussion that he had about his run in AEW. Well, he was recently on the No Contest Wrestling podcast, which just launched, and he made two admissions that I want to talk about. One of which I thought was interesting. He thought he was going to be done with pro wrestling after his AEW run. He figured, okay, I had expressed interest in returning to WWE before I went to AEW. That didn't happen. They had talks about it, and they couldn't make a deal. Then, everything went down with his AEW run, and he was heavily criticized by wrestling fans for it. So, that was one. He thought he was done with pro wrestling after his AEW run. Here's the other admission that I think is interesting. He said, most people who do live television, I haven't really experienced it doing TV and movies because you can't do another take. There is pressure to that. Not only pressure like live television, live sports. I don't know what it's like to play Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals, home game and be down by 3 to a face-off and a puck drops. I don't know what that experience is like. I think I can maybe draw some parallels to what I've done in my career. Coming back, there was a level of imposter syndrome that I think I always dealt with. As much as I've always been that guy that shuts down the negative voices, those voices are still there and are not doing something for 7 years and famously having very public and ugly breakup with the other company or with the company. I thought that is, are people going to care? How will they remember me? You also have a pretty good idea. Sure. They're not here to throw tomatoes at me. There's always that little bit of doubt. I thrive on being uncomfortable. In that moment, I was so uncomfortable because of the uncertainty. And I love it. I've never felt more alive. I've never had low lows. I wish this was all over with. I had highs of highs. I never want this to end. There is a middle part that I have experienced a couple of times. Fortunately, it was the same thing when I came back at Survivor Series, the uncertainty. But then I was looking around and seeing all these people, my peers and colleagues, loving it. Wow. CM Punk, imposter syndrome, came from the man himself. And I can see that, right? Think about it. He had been gone for so many years. People expected to see a certain version of CM Punk when he returned to AEW. How do you live up to that image? How do you live up to that expectation, that memory? What the fans wanted, what the fans expected, what the fans needed from CM Punk after chanting his name multiple years and waiting for this time. I can see that. Bill Goldberg has publicly talked about this numerous times in the past about how he feels like when he wrestles, he has to be Goldberg, the guy that fans remember from 1998. And it's very difficult to be that guy when he's in his 50s now, right? And to a certain degree, I think we can all relate to what Punk was going through, what Goldberg goes through. You have to live up to this ideology of what fans thought you were. And if you don't, then you disappoint them. And if you disappoint your fans, then you start to lose your fans, right? That is very important to know. That is something very interesting to see. And it's very interesting to see coming from someone of CM Punk's stature, of his legacy, of everything that he's been able to do. Look, I think CM Punk in WWE is a way better version than we ever got in AEW. He seems like he is more at peace. He feels like he doesn't have to worry about all the things that he's in AEW. And he's talked about this on the MMA Hour, which I never understood. He was asked and somewhat took on the role of like an executive. We know that he had 2 separate contracts, one behind the scenes, one on camera. With the idea being the famous Jack Perry thing, right? People came to him and said, hey, Jack Perry's not listening us about the not using real glass for a car segment. Will you please go and talk to him? That's not Punk's place. Now, I understand that he had a behind-the-scenes contract, but disciplining someone probably should be held up to management. There's a difference between having a backstage role or a contract or power. And then there's others from a discipline area, right? Why he felt like he had to be someone that disciplines other talent is very odd to me. And I think the fact that he does not have that pressure in WWE, the fact that he has been bitten by the wrestling bug yet again and doesn't want to lose that feeling again, and the fact that, yes, it is WWE, and it is completely different, and the fact that they do treat talent different, right? You go back to like 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 19, 20. WWE then versus now, it feels different. You can clearly see Vince McMahon's fingerprints on this product compared to what Triple H does. It's night and day. So I get why Punk did not return to WWE for so long, but that's definitely what he had to say about AEW.